welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage, where Sean and I take a look at every single theatrically released animated film in chronological order. I'm Tennille.
And I am Sean.
And today we watched the USSR film from 1966. We went back a few years in time. And we watched Go Here, Don't Know Where. Or wait, no. Go There, Don't Know Where.
And the reason we were able to watch this is because one of our patrons pointed it out to us.
It showed up in their subscription feed on YouTube, so they were able to just send us the link, and
cool.
We were able to watch it.
Who was it?
It was Redway 2. They also gave us, they're one of our Russian viewers, they also were able to give us some context on the Russian animation industry going on at this time. So, we'll be kind of...
nice.
Yeah, we'll kind of be talking about that a little bit, too. Because it's been really hard researching this from where we live. Because it's really hard to find the information, and then it's more difficult to understand the information. Because even if it's there, like, I just don't understand
the context of anything that it's talking about.
Exactly. So
it's too many proper nouns without enough explanation about them.
Right, exactly. So, you know, Redway was able to just kind of like, from more of a, not first-hand experience, but like
a second-hand experience as compared to like a
kind of say all of this. Yeah. And then from there, I was able to like look up keywords that they said and go
extrapolate from there.
Yeah.
So now we have a better idea of what's going on in the Russian animation industry right now. Cool.
But first of all, let's talk about this film.
Sure. All right. So this film is only about an hour long, and it starts off with a framing device of
being a puppet show.
Yeah, a puppet show where like these two jester puppets show up and they're like, this is how we're going to tell you the story, so you better deal with it.
Yep.
Like, they pretty much say that straight up. And they say it in rhyme because they're the ones that literally speak every single line in this movie. They just emulate various voices for all the different characters that show up in the story.
And already I'm kind of wondering if this is a subtle jab at the government, because apparently the government really didn't like the experimental, fancy, UPA-ish graphic stylings of animation. So them being like, this is the way we're gonna tell it, too bad if you don't like it, kind of thing.
Deal with it.
Deal with it.
Because the whole story is told as papercraft, but you have these two stop-motion puppets standing in front of the screen letting you know how everything's going down.
Yeah.
And like telling the actual story, which I thought was very fun.
Yeah, I did too. And the papercraft in this was beautiful.
Gorgeous.
I loved it. And the of course the animation's fairly simple because it's papercraft, but it's still like it's gorgeous. And then the backgrounds and the way they layered all of this together too, like really gave it both a sense of depth and no depth, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they had shots with like great depth and like the background was blurry, and then other times it's just like characters walking through this papercraft forest or something like that, and it's so beautiful and so stylized. It was really neat.
It was great. So yeah, it's these two puppets that are emulating all these voices, and they're saying everything in rhyme. The whole entire movie is in like rhyming couplets the whole time. And even though we don't speak Russian and the translation was not rhyming, you could still tell that they were rhyming just from the cadence of how they spoke and the fact that like every other line
rhymed.
And it rhymed. Even if we don't know what the words themselves were, it's like, yeah, it's all rhyming. It's really, it was neat, but I can imagine that would get very exhaustive to listen to.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a reason that most movies nowadays don't try to do this.
That, yeah.
Because most modern audiences, at least, don't like a lot of rhyming.
Well, and I feel like there's kind of like a threshold.
A pretentiousness threshold that a lot of people don't like. But that's not the threshold you were talking about, was it?
Well, no, it's just kind of like, how long can you tolerate this gimmick?
Okay, yeah.
before you get tired of hearing it. You know, it's why some things are suited well for books that aren't suited well for movies, and rhyming is one of them. You can rhyme like a whole children's book, and that's fine. You know, like it's short.
Yeah, it's like...
And you're reading it.
You're reading it, and even if you're reading it aloud, you're going to read it aloud and you'll be done in like 5 to 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But a 55-minute movie that is
Right.
completely in rhyming couplets gets a little exhaustive.
It's impressive, but
like,
that's too much.
Yeah, I don't think is a good choice. I mean, it might have been a good choice here. It's just I would never attempt this.
Right. Obviously, it didn't really bother us because it was one of those things we had to really listen for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, it never got tiring to me. I thought it was all pretty charming, but yeah, this was kind of our 2 cents on that. Anyway, do you want to tell what the story is?
Yes, we'll go into a plot. It starts off with a king, and he's got all these servants and all their servants and everybody that serves him because he's the king and he gets everything he wants, and they do all of his stuff. And he has like a secret informant man that goes around and gives him all the information.
Mm-hmm. The narrative is definitely making the king out to be like this bumbling fool because obviously Russia does not like kings
at this point.
Yeah.
And then the secret informant guy is obviously supposed to be also kind of bumbling, but more so nefariously evil.
Schemy, yeah.
Either way, one of the servants, or just people under the rule of the king, is this hunter who hunts up any animal that the king desires so that he can eat it. And he's sent into the woods one day, and he's not really finding anything. And then he finds a dove that is being attacked by an eagle, and he shoots the eagle dead. And then the dove falls to the ground and transforms into a beautiful lady.
What do you know? It turns out it was a cursed lady all along.
She's like, thank you for killing the evil wizard hawk.
Yes.
Because you killed him, the curse is free, and now we marry.
Yep. That's just how it goes. I mean, honestly, this movie is playing a lot of these fairy tale things that happen in kind of a comedic, like,
it's like, we're doing the thing again.
Of course this is what happens, because this is what always happens.
So it's like it's poking fun, but still enjoying all of these silly fairy tale tropes that have been showing up in a lot of these movies, specifically from Russia, that we've been seeing over the past few years. Which is really fun, because we've gone on this journey. We get what they're making fun of.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure if we saw the shorts, like, because there's hundreds of shorts at this time that
we'd be exhausted of all of these tropes. Either way, the guy takes this woman, Mary, to be his wife, and they go home and they have a big old party, but then they take everything away because, like, he's like, hey, I was a bachelor hunter. I didn't really have anything. And she's like, don't worry, I'm beautiful, wise, and vaguely magical. I'm going to take this magic string and I'm going to sew together this amazing, immaculate rug that is so beautiful. And he's going to go take it and sell it at the market. And wouldn't you know it, the informant guy is there, and he's like, he is blown away by how beautiful this thing is. And he pays 10,000 monies.
Monies.
I don't know.
A lot of monies.
Like $10,000 or something. Some ludicrous amount of money.
Yeah.
For this rug. So
tapestry.
The hunter has now got lots of money for him and his wife. But the informant takes it back to the king and he's like, here, you can have this. And the king's like, cool, how much was it? And I'll pay you back. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. He's like, no, I'm going to pay you back. And it's like, okay, it was 15,000.
Yeah.
It's like adding extra on top of it. And so he's like, I could do this again. In fact, I'm going to go find this guy's wife and commission her to do 10 rugs and just make $1 million or whatever. So he goes to the house and knocks on the door and opens up the door, and she's like, hey. And he's like, she's so beautiful.
Yeah, of course.
And so he can't even say a word and walks away.
Goes back to the king, tells the king.
He's like, I'm in love. Well, no, he's like, I'm in love. And the king's like, well, you're married, so you can't do anything. But I'm a bachelor, so I'm going to go steal this man's wife. And so the king goes and sees her, and he's like,
geez.
I'm in love. And he's like, all right, now we need to get rid of the husband. How do we get rid of the husband? Because I want his wife.
Yay.
It's one of these stories, folks.
Yep.
So the king is like, all right, we need to kill him. He needs to go visit my dad who is dead.
Yeah, and the king isn't they even make a point of the king isn't the kind of king who's just going to, kill the husband. He's got to do it in a
random arbitrary way to make the guy die of his quote-unquote own accord.
Right. That way the king isn't actually done anything wrong.
He's not just going to be off with your head or anything. He's going to no, you have to go do this impossible task that'll probably kill you.
Uh-huh.
So he sends him to go talk to the guy in the land of his father in the land of the dead and bring back information. And obviously the joke is, well, he can't go to the land of the dead. He's got to die to do that, and then he can't come back. Mm-hmm. But the wife is like, oh, don't worry, I know the way there.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And she's like, take the informant guy with you so that, he can back you up so no one can call you a liar. Mm-hmm. Why did the informant guy go along with this? I don't know. But they go down into hell, as you do in a Russian movie.
Yeah.
It's a Russian movie, so you got to travel to hell or meet a devil or demon at some point, and they do all of these things.
Uh-huh.
So they go down there and they meet the old king, and he's like a pack mule, and he's like, it's horrible. I hate it.
Go figure, right?
Yeah. So they go back, and the king is like, how are you alive? And here, this is what your dad said. And he's like, I don't believe you. And the other guy's like, it happened.
It happened. Also, the demons down there broke every bone in my body.
Help me.
Help.
And so the king's like, all right, I need to find something else. He's like, all right, bring me something I've never seen before from someplace I've never heard of. Go.
Go there. Don't know where.
There's the title of the movie.
Yep. Title drop.
And the wife is like, well, that one sounds a little more difficult. So, here, take this magic ball of string and it'll lead you right where you need to go.
Convenient.
All right, thanks, wife of amazing powers. How? All right. So he follows this ball of string, which unrolls itself all throughout the woods, and he finds this ramshackle house.
But at first we meet this thing that I thought that was going to be the thing.
But no, it's just this random guy that's neither young nor old. He's just kind of completely average, and they spend an exhaustively long time talking about how average this man is. And he's got an invisible servant who can do magic and give him whatever he wants. And he's like, make me all this food and clean up the house and stoke a fire and do all these things. And something like that?
Yeah. Is the name of the invisible servant.
Mm-hmm. And the guy eats all the food. He's like, all right, I'm going for a walk. And then the hunter guy is like, hey, can you make me food as well? He's like, you don't know me, but I'm kind of hungry. And so it's like, boom. It's like, oh, cool. Why don't you join me and eat some food with me? And then they sit there and eat and drink together. And the invisible guy's like, no one's ever asked me in 200 years for me to join them. And he's like, cool, do you want to come with me? And we're like, just go leave this place. And the dude's like, oh, yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, sure.
Cool, you were nice to me. So they leave, and they're walking home, and it's taking them days to get home. And then the ghost...
They should have just followed the string back.
Yeah, I know, but they lost it or something. I don't know.
Whatever.
And then they're sitting on a hill, and the invisible guy's like, hey, cloud friends, give me a cloud horse. And then something from the sky says, okay. And they send down a horse made out of cloud.
Uh-huh.
Russian animation has beautiful horses. All right, there we go. Check mark.
Check. Place your bingo chip down.
So they ride an floaty horse made of clouds. And it takes them to a random island out in the middle of the ocean. Okay, with a pavilion.
Yeah,
okay.
All right.
Meanwhile, 3 spoiled, bratty, rich
sailors,
sons of merchants,
yes,
sailed to foreign countries and became infatuated with foreign countries and all the great things that foreign countries can give you. And foreign countries are so much better than homeland Mother Russia. Man, these are bad people because they care so much about foreign countries. Like, they keep using the term foreign countries, and it's like...
Okay, yeah, I see what you're doing
I see what you're doing here, movie about communist Russia. Anyways, they come across the island,
and so our good protagonist hero dude tricks them out of all of their stuff.
Out of all their magical doodads that they got from foreign countries.
Their magical doodads, which includes...
a magical floating stick that whacks anybody that you want it to whack.
Chewing gum. And a saxophone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a saxophone, but it's a saxophone.
It's a saxophone that makes people dance uncontrollably. Everyone except for the main character.
Yeah.
He's the only one unaffected.
He's too stoic
and heroic and...
perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Either way, he tricks him out of those things by trading away his invisible servant, who... the invisible servant is like, don't worry, I'll just come back to you. They can't see me.
Right.
It's not an issue.
Yeah.
So he does that, and they fly back to the castle. By this point, it's been like a couple weeks or something.
And the king is like, oh no, your husband is dead.
So you are going to marry me. And Mary is like, no. And he's like, too bad, I'm king. And boom, burst open the door. It's our protagonist hunter guy, and he sicks his magic flying club on the king. And then he uses the saxophone to make everybody else dance into exhaustion.
And the chewing gum never gets brought up again.
Nope.
That was just a joke.
And then he and his wife live happily ever after because they've abolished the kings and hierarchy. Yep. And everyone lives happily ever after. The invisible guy.
There's no such thing as monarchy.
There's no monarchy
There's no more monarchy. There's no more monarchy.
The king was chased into hell directly.
Yep.
So that's that.
But I mean, the puppets come back out at the end, and they say over and over 3 times, like
"Hail to no kings!" And no monarchy anymore. Hail communism, Mother Russia. They don't say those things, but that's very clearly what it is.
They do say no more kings. Yay, no more kings. Yay, no more kings.
Communism!
Yeah!
Oh, this is old hat at this point. I'm not even phased.
No.
It's like, I for some reason forgot about the communist angle until the movie was ending, and I was like, oh right, yeah. This is a Russian movie. We just haven't watched one of these in half a
little
year.
While, yeah.
So I had forgotten, but it was like, oh right, of course.
It's good to see Russia back, man. They make nice films.
They make nice films about communism.
They do. Once you put the propaganda off to the side, you're like, yeah, that was a good time.
I mean, other than that, the movie was enjoyable.
So I have a few direct quotes from things that Redway gave us.
Oh, okay, yes.
And I figured I would quote them directly since, I trust them, but, I can't get resources, so I'm just going to quote them directly.
So this is their take on how all of this is going down.
Right. The government pushed for everything to be blatant and spelled out, so there wouldn't be any second meaning behind the cartoon.
I can see that. Which
is why, at the end, we have...
communism!
There's no more kings! Yeah. And then... they were also telling me about Goskino, Goskino, was the branch of the government that oversaw all films that got made.
All right.
And this is why we've been seeing less and less Russian films, is because somewhere in the 60s, they basically said, stick to shorts, they're faster to make, and easier to censor.
Oh. Okay. I mean, they're not wrong.
They're not wrong.
Because with a full-length film, it's easier to slip subtle things in there if you wanted.
Right.
But a short is a short, and it's not very long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job, Russia.
Good Good job.
Glad to see you back.
Yep. But as an interesting note, since this is a film that came out in 66, Ridway also informed me that the late 60s to the 80s is considered the golden age of Russian animation.
Really?
Yeah. So I am very interested to see like what we will be seeing going forward.
Okay, well, the real thing is,
how much of it is shorts and how much of it is theatrically released?
Because if it's shorts, we're not going to see a whole lot of it on the show anymore.
There are still quite a few films that I see upcoming, but
hopefully we can find some of them?
Yeah, it might be kind of spaced out. One last thing I wanted to say is Ivano Vano is the director of this film, and he is known as the patriarch of Soviet animation. And we've watched several other of his movies, which include The Humpbacked Horse, The Snow Maiden, The 12 Months, Burrentino, and Lefty.
Yeah, I was guessing Lefty because, like, they have the very similar art style.
It's very similar. But it's cool seeing how this guy has grown. Yeah. And I think there's only a few more films of his we have to see because he passes away in, like, 87, I think, if that's what I remember reading.
All right, so we got like another decade where he's probably kicking around doing some stuff.
Yeah. Like, we know, too, from watching The Humpback Horse, that there's a remake he makes of that soon.
Oh. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Neat.
Yeah. So
now that you say that, it's like, yeah, that's right. Because when we were trying to look up research on it, it's like, do you mean this one? And I'm like, no, I want the one from this year, not 20 years in the future or whatever.
Like 30 years in the future.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. Man, we'll have to see how they compare.
Yeah.
Well, anything else?
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, time for our next movie. We are going back to 1969.
Forward to 19...
Back forward... Traveling back to the point in time where we were right before we watched this movie from 1966. Sure. We are watching A Christmas Carol.
Oh boy.
Yay! And this is also our second to last film from this decade. It's been a while, but we're almost to the end.
Man.
All right. Well, see you guys then.
Yeah, see you then. Bye-bye.